What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the stream. My name is Christian. I am the creator of Sacribit, and we're gonna make a tier list for my favorite spirits. So I think what we'll do is we'll base it on visuals, since I'm the one creating all the artwork, and also on how much I like the card design themselves, as I've also done that as well. So essentially, I create the card design, the mechanics for it, tie it to the game mechanics, of course, and then also do the sprite work. If you guys don't know already, I have been creating updates to these sprites that you see in the tier list. So these aren't the final versions for some of these characters, but they are like the first pass, essentially. So some of them are more final than others, but some you may see slight changes like color palettes, pixel tweaking, stuff like that, and others you might see more drastic shifts. Generally, I'm just trying to essentially unify the, no pun intended, but unify the cohesive art style of all the spirits together. But yeah, so let's start. So I think can't really use A, S, B, C, D. I want to do something more specific that fits. So let's do absolute faves. Let's do super cool. Then we'll do enjoyable, growing on me, and then I'll say this is like indifferent. Yeah, I think this is probably a good metric for cards here. I'll make this a little bigger so you guys can see. So let's do them in order. So Ache, the Spanish bull. I really do like the sprite that I made for him. I also made the entrance for him as well recently, which looks really cool. Basically starts out as a man and then goes down on his hands and basically like lunges himself upward, launches himself into the air and transforms into the bull. Also, his card is really cool. He's a, if we look at here, I can show you guys. He's basically a 2/4 that gives you all your other active spirits +2 power while active, which is a really versatile and strong ability. I don't really see too many people use him, but I think he's just generic good stuff, and he enables some really strong boards just from how much, like, if you can swarm the board, he's so offensive and so well statted. He used to only give +1 power and used to be a 2/3, and that was definitely way too weak. He may be overstated now for how much +2 he gives, but like, I don't know, I haven't seen him be broken yet, so I'm gonna put him up there as super cool. I think the combination of the sprite and the card design, I just really like his ability. He's kind of known as a protector spirit, so that's why I gave him the that deal there. The Abbey Room. So this is the Abbey Room Black. I'm going to be very biased and say that the black one is my favorite. I absolutely love the mechanic I created of the Red Death and how every turn he creates each room. Similar to the Destiny board strategy from Yugioh, but a lot more viable and practical. It's still difficult to do, but it's something you can pull off in match. It's just the game needs to go long enough for this to happen. So, you know, you could pair it with stuff like life gain, defensive cards that make it hard for your opponent to swing on, or just do a lot of destruction effects and board wipes to like limit your opponent's resources. And you could have it be possible. Yeah, I think it's very fun, very unique, and I like that it's also can be a junk strategy as well. So you put, you know, junk cards into the opponent's deck with these Abbey Rooms, and then you're just building on top of that until you get the potential win condition. There is some counters to this too, so you can do stuff like you can buff these Abbey rooms because they're 0/0, so they're 0 energy, 0 power, and you can basically use Ache, for example, to buff your Abbey rooms, so when you play them they don't get destroyed, and you get basically 0/2 powers. And if you get Mummy on there and you destroy Mummy, then you give +2 again, so you get basically 0/4 Abbey rooms that you can attack with and win the game. You just save all of them in one turn, put them out there, and if you've already done a bit of damage, it's going to be pretty obvious that you're going to win. Yeah, so same thing with these ones. I think these are super cool. The black one is just my favorite. I love the design of it. Definitely my favorite. These tiers aren't going to be in order because I think it'll take too long to order them, but I may do certain ones if it's like too low or something like that. Akuma, or Akuma. So his design is really cool. I love how I did the sprite for him. Basically a demon head, a red demon that has a fiery head. I love the pose. I love his entrance when he comes into the game. I am a bit lukewarm on his design now after kind of finishing all the different cards. Currently, if you guys don't know, his ability is pretty basic for something unique like this. So Akuma, if your life total is greater, if your life total is great, I also mistyped this, but if your life total is greater than your opponent, he gains +4 power, and he's a 5/2, so he'd technically bump up to a 5/6, which is good, is respectable, and it's very easy to get this trigger to happen. So having a 5/6 spirit that is also, you know, 5 energy that you can use to get your others cards out, or just a big beater that can basically just swing, right? Again, it is conditional, so there's ways to turn this off, turn it on, depending on what you're going up against. But I am planning on changing this card quite drastically. I think this is going to make people want to try this card a lot more. I'm very excited. It's kind of also a callback to another Yu-Gi-Oh design that I was a big fan of growing up, and there's nothing like this effect in the game currently, and I'm not going to reveal it until after the tournament because I don't want people to think too hard about it yet. But I do have patch notes that we're working on. That's why I'm not showing you guys the live document, because that is now private. This is the downloaded list for the tournament players to use, basically, to build their decks. And the tournament's still ongoing. We're halfway through the bracket now, and we have a match coming up on Tuesday. But I'll go into more detail later in the stream. So generally, I think overall his sprite is really cool. I love what I did with his entrance. But I have to judge him as he is right now, and I think he's just enjoyable. He's kind of in the middle of the road for me. But I think once his new effect gets put in and I see it play tested, and if it works as good as I can imagine, then he'll definitely shoot up for me, I think. So this one is interesting. So I'm not going to say the name because this is during the tournament, I've learned more and more about each of the characters. So I'm going to show you the name written, but essentially it's this card here. So W-I-I-N. So this spirit is so essentially the name of the spirit is it's very disrespectful to the culture it comes from. I believe I can actually look this up here. Because I've changed the name on the updated patch of the cards, but I haven't changed it for this tournament list because I wanted it to stay the same. Yeah, so essentially this spirit comes from the Algonquin culture. It's an indigenous culture, and this is the spirit from that culture. And the thing with this one is that it's disrespectful to say the name of the actual spirit, so that's why I'm changing the name to something else. I haven't decided on the name that will be represented. I am going to reach out to some people who are more familiar with the culture and seeing what would be appropriate, but still communicate that this is the spirit I'm trying to indicate. So for now, I'm not going to say the name anymore, and I'm not going to include it in the dialogue of the character, but This spirit is basically a kind of a floodgate, so to speak. So when this spirit is active, players can only play one spirit per turn, which is quite huge in Sacribit. If you are limiting what your opponent can do, especially like if this is like one of the last spirits you've played, and then you just shut your opponent down. So if they're trying to make a comeback, they really can't against Wendigo, or against, sorry, I just said it. So they're really going to be shut down, and it's a 5/3, so it's not the most power on a card, but it is a 5 cost, and Unify is such a big mechanic in Sacribit that like if you can't capitalize on it, especially when your opponent's winning, it's very difficult to make a comeback because you're giving all the control to your opponent to decide what to defend with, all that sort of stuff. And I think combining this with Pigsaw is super scary. Pigsaw, if you don't know, he basically allows you to control your opponent's Unify targets. So you can basically, if you have enough fodder on the board, you can basically prevent them from attacking that spirit. So yeah, really good card. I also really like the art. This is one of the last arts I did for it. And this is actually more fitting to what the spirit's supposed to look like versus what the North American kind of pop culture has made the design look like. Typically they're shown with like antlers and a skull head, stuff like that, but that's not actually what it's supposed to look like in proper folklore. So this is a more accurate representation. I think the design, the card itself, I'm not really a big fan of like floodgate style cards and cards that limit certain things. So I only put that in just to kind of help those players that want to be more control-y. So not one of my favorites, but I really like the sprite art. So I'm going to put this under enjoyable, I think. Yeah, I really like the sprite, but like on the design aspect, like it's not my personal favorite style to play. So I'm going to keep that separate there. Anansi. So this card is a defensive card. It is a card that basically says it can defend twice. Let's see if I can find it here. I believe there's a 3/5. Yeah, there we go. So the spirit can defend twice. It's a 3/5, as I remembered, and it's basically a spider with a human face. So that's what you're seeing here. I really like defensive cards in card games, and defense is pretty decent in Sacribit as well. I think it may need a slight buff in the archetype, but I think right now it's too early to tell, so I think I need more playtest to kind of find out what the cap is of this kind of deck archetype. And there's certain players in the game right now who are in the tournament that love this kind of archetype. And Anansi's just solid, just solid defensive card that can defend twice. So it has some staying power, and it's a good power for the cost, I think, pretty standard. But I really like the sprite. I gave it a different back crest to kind of represent the more African design, because I just didn't want it to make it just like a regular brown spider. Yeah, so I would say this in terms of design I think is super cool. So I'm going to put it just above Ache here. Okay, so Artigu, I think is how you're supposed to pronounce it. I'm going to probably be massively corrected on it. This card is a 1-cost card. So essentially what this does is every turn it's active, it gives 1 extra energy at the start of your turn. And it is a 1/3, so it is slightly above curve. And it is while active, which is not the most strong kind of aspect. This one has gotten quite a big sprite update in terms of like the shading and stuff like that. It's basically a keeper of money, so that's why I gave it an ability that gives you energy, so resources. I think it's fine. It kind of reminds me of Psylocke a little bit from Marvel Snap, or something more like I would say more like an Electro kind of thing, but it doesn't have the negative circumstance of being like you can only play 1 card per turn, that sort of thing. Yeah, and it's something you want to keep around, but it's nothing too crazy. But it is an interesting spirit. I think this one I'm like indifferent on, because I don't really care too much about energy ramp in Sacribit, at least in this type of ability here. but this one is definitely underexplored. I think some people could be more explorative with this kind of card. Angel. So Angel is a 3/1, and she definitely is really powerful. So while she's active, she gains +1 power per card in your hand. So if you guys know, in Sacribit, you draw cards at the end of your turn, and every turn you're going to draw an extra card per turn until you get to turn 5, where it caps out at drawing 5 cards per turn. So after you play Angel and you end your turn, you will have at least +5 power. So you'll at least be a 3/6 minimum, right, on your opponent's turn, which is pretty solid. And if you've saved any cards at all in your hand, or you have stuff like Zeus in play, you'll draw an extra card and get even stronger. So she's a really good card that kind of stacks really fast, really easily, especially in the late game. Early game, she's kind of a dud unless you've been saving cards cleverly, but it's really hard to hold onto your hand early on against like aggressive players. But I really like the art. There's a really nice update I gave her as well that will kind of help her look a little better. But no, I really love the art. I like the look of it, and she's very angelic and holy. I think she's super cool on like the lower part here, but I think her design is not something I particularly care about. So I would say probably enjoyable at this stage. Azada. So Azada is a 2/4 spirit that says when you play him, you gain 1 life, or you gain 1 stamina per card in your void. So again, your void is your discard pile or your trash or your graveyard, and it shuffles back at the end of every after you run out of cards to draw. You basically shuffle your void, and then you get a new deck. So depending on when you play this, you can gain a lot of health back. You can't overgain in Sacribit, so you can't gain past 15 stamina, but it is still really good for keeping the game going longer. So again, kind of ties into the Abbey Room cards and stuff like that. So definitely possible. So I would say I really enjoy this spirit. I really like the design that I gave him, very lizard dragon like, which is basically what Azada is. I think the life gain is really cool. I love not delaying, but like I like making it harder for your opponent to take you out. So I'm gonna put Azada probably above. Not one of my favorites, but I'll definitely put him above Anansi. I think at the top of super cool so far. Yeah. Bobby Neckpet. So Bobby Neckpet is basically a boar that can turn into, or a character that turns into a boar and causes destruction in the village and stuff like that. It's one of the most powerful 3-cost cards. It's a 3/6 essentially, so just below Jersey Devil. And when you play Bobby Neckpet, so it shuffles all players' voids into their deck. So basically resets the void essentially, which can damage other stuff, like it can ruin El Sabon, it can ruin Frankenstein's monster, and all these other cards that are kind of void dependent. But it can help you speed up certain cards as well. So if you're trying to reshuffle stuff into your void that you've just used or you've just destroyed, just to kind of get their effect quicker, this is a really good way to kind of do that, and you just get a really big beat stick. So instead of having to worry about Angel having a 3/6 from like cards in your hand, you just get that flat out like that. So I think design wise, I really like him. I think the effect is cool. I probably wouldn't personally use this card because I don't care too much about void stuff. I like more, as I mentioned, like defensive cards. I like destruction and stuff like that. In Marvel Snap, I play a lot of destroy, so cards like that I'm more favorable to. But I think over time, this one has been growing on me. So I would say this is a growing on me card. Yeah, I think something like that. Baki Kujira. So Baki Kujira is a 3/4. And when you play this card, it basically does a bounce effect. So it bounces a card from the opponent's side that they choose, and then a card from your side. And you can also target Baki Kujira itself and bounce it back to the hand. So you can get the 3 energy again, or you can play something else and then play this out again, bounce something else. So it gives you a lot of cool strategy and removal as well. That's not destruction. that's very, very, very strong. I think this is like, I think some people have caught on, but I think this is one of the best cards in the game. And funny enough, I love this art. This actually was one of the ones that took me a long time to do because I had to look at a lot of different designs of like bones and skeletons and stuff like that. And creating bones in pixel art is kind of difficult, especially with the detail of like the spine vertebrae and stuff like that. So I think I did a pretty good job. I love the blue glow. It's supposed to be a whale of despair in Japanese folklore. It's a yokai essentially. And yeah, I think this is really up there. I think this is one of my absolute faves. I think above the Abbey Room. Easily like top card for me. And I would probably use this definitely all the time because this is just such a fun strategy. So versatile. And it kind of reminiscent of Beast sort of in Marvel Snap, but then also affects the opponent too. Just think of it like a tidal wave or something, you know? Balor. So Balor is a Irish demon, the king of demons, essentially. It is a 5/2, if I remember correctly. 5/3. So not really strong, but when he's played, he destroys 2 other random active spirits. So really, really powerful. Probably the best removal card in the game. And if you only play Balor on your side, you're guaranteed to destroy 2 of your opponent's spirits. It just depends which 2, depending on their board. But insanely powerful card. People have coined it now the Balor Shuffle. So basically, because in Tabletop Simulator, we have to shuffle all the cards in play to kind of decide randomly which cards will be destroyed. Yeah, very fun card. Can backfire, but it is kind of one of those cards that's like a gambling kind of effect. But more than not, it often pays off in your favor if you can just manage the board and the timing of when to play it. And, you know, if you can't find a good time, it is a 5 cost, which is always great to have. So I think, and I also really love the sprite, I will say. Like, I love drawing big buff characters because that's just kind of what I grew up drawing. Like Street Fighter characters, stuff like that, like Marvel superheroes, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, definitely way up there for me. I think not absolute fave, but super cool. I would say probably just above Anansi here. So I'd say I'm right there. Basilisk. Basilisk, I love this card. One of my favorites easily. Only when I started doing more research that Basilisk is actually a tiny snake in the original folklore. And a lot of the size exaggeration is from people making up stories about that it's like a massive snake, blah, blah, blah. But the original version of the Basilisk was actually just a tiny snake, which is just like the most poisonous possible poison, essentially. The most venomous type of snake that was super deadly. And I really love the sprite for it. I really tried to change the green a little bit to get the kind of effect I was going for, and I love the glowing eyes. The effect is really cool. Easily one of my favorites. Basically, when you have Basilisk in play, it makes your opponent have to pay 2 stamina in order to attack for each attack. So it's kind of like the card Toll from Yu-Gi-Oh, which I was a really big fan of growing up. So I kind of wanted to make a Toll spirit in that fashion, and you know, it's kind of similar to like the venomness of the snake, and also turning something to stone as well. But yeah, so I think absolutely one of my faves. I think also above the room. Batibat. So this is a Filipino spirit. She is a 3/4, if I remember correctly. Batibat, yeah. So she's the 3/4. So she buffs all of your 1-cost cards or 1 energy spirits, and gains +2 power. So super strong for any swarm kind of weenie decks. And she's just decently powered herself. If you put her with Ache, you get like a 6 power card for 3, which is pretty good. And I really like the design. She's supposed to be obese, and she's like kind of the protector of trees and stuff like that. And she basically kills you by sitting on you until you suffocate, and then kind of goes back to her business. I love foreshortening a lot, so you guys can kind of tell a lot of these sprites have like some limb coming towards the camera. So love this character. I love how unique she is as well. I'm gonna put her definitely up there with I think probably in the middle here. I think between these two. Yeah, really like her. Bigfoot. So Bigfoot is a 4/7. One of the stronger 4-cost cards, but when you attack it, it goes to the hand. So it's kind of one of those once defended, always defended kind of things in Magic, where if you attack it and it blocks something, then the block is still blocked, but then you get to go, you just get it back into your hand, so it can never really be destroyed outside of like targeting it in a different way. Yeah, really cool card. I love the sprite. He's very buff looking and very, I try to make him a bit blurry as well. I would say I'm not really a fan of his effect for my personal playstyle. So I would say he's growing on me, probably more than Bobby Negpet, I would say. Black Mass. So Black Mass is a 1/3, and while he's active, every other enemy spirit gets -2 power, which is honestly really strong. It's really, really powerful. And what I would say is that a lot of the people either hate him or love this card. He's a very toxic card for sure, and very annoying when you pair him with other stuff that can minus or affect the board as well. So I would definitely say, and this is also the first second spirit I drew ever, and he's a really cool entrance as well, that I'm excited to show some of you guys. If you guys haven't seen it already, there is a version of it in the Discord, so definitely check that out. But I would say this is pretty up there for me. I think in terms of playstyle, it's quite toxic, which I like in some cases. I would say it's in between Balor and Nance. Bloody Mary. So Bloody Mary is a 3/3, if I recall. Yeah, 3/3, and when she's played, she destroys all other spirits with 3 or less power. So kind of akin to almost like a Killmonger, but more targeted to power cost. So she can kind of remove a lot of weaker spirits from the board immediately. So if you're trying to, buff up Hades, or any cards that like to be destroyed, like Mummy and that sort of thing, it will target everything in play, so including yours and your opponent's. So if you don't want that, definitely be careful with her. But she's pretty solid. I think she's also consistent removal. And if you want your cards like Death or any other cards that you want to cycle constantly through, or you just have cards that don't care about being destroyed, like Cadaver, Onryo, stuff like that, you can just throw her into your deck just for like cheap removal, especially if they're running weenies that don't have buffs. You can kind of get rid of most 1-cost cards, because the average curve is like a 1/3 for 1-cost cards, so they will at least have 3 power. Yeah, it's a really strong card. I like the artwork as well. She's like just landing from out of her mirror that she's gonna be jumping out of, and she's covered in blood, obviously. Her sprite is updated slightly from this version, but I think I'm a bit indifferent, honestly, about her. Probably, I think I'm more indifferent with Artigue. So yeah, kind of like that. Not too bad. Okay, Bolabog. So Bolabog is a 1/4. I believe she's a 1/4. Yeah, so she's a 1/4. So if she's in your hand and one of your spirits is destroyed, you get to play her for free. She's essentially a substitute teacher, and she's got a mean face on her. And I really do like her simplicity of her design. She's similar to this card Angel in Marvel Snap, which I love using in my destroy decks if I can fit them in. But it's just kind of a good way. In Sacribit, she's much stronger than Angel, because having something that comes out for free and also something that comes out on the opponent's turn is quite good, and it can kind of save you in a lot of niche situations, because 4 power is nothing to laugh at as well. And if you have stuff that buffs her, like Batibat, Ache, you can really keep her for a while, and she's just something that's really versatile, because you can keep her in her hand if you want, like if you need 1 extra energy to unify or some other thing like that. She's just quite good overall, and I think something of an ability that I do enjoy, I would say she's above I'll put her above Batibat, actually. Boulder. So Boulder is a junk card that Deve creates. So and it is a token, so you can't actually put it in your deck, but I do like the rock and the Boulder sprite art, and I like junk cards. I think that's one of my favorite aspects in Marvel Snap. It was such a cool idea that I felt like I wanted to take some of that idea and put it into Sacribit. So I would say this is super cool. I would say probably even above Balor. I really like this type of idea for, like, I love Rocks and Hawks, like Darkhawk and using like Korg and Rock Slide for Marvel Snap, and it kind of enables a similar strategy, you know. Bunyip. Bunyip is an Australian spirit. This one is probably one of my favorite effects in the game. It is very, very similar. It is a 2/2, and it's essentially a random man-eater bug, if you guys know that card from Yu-Gi-Oh! I love man-eater bug and cards like that. It's just such a fun thing, and it couldn't have been on a more interesting spirit. I just love like the reptilian design that I've given it. I've updated its color palette and changed the shading a little bit on the new one, but you guys will see that soon. I would say this is one of my absolute faves. Definitely, probably design-wise, not above like the Abbey Room. I was really clever with this one, but I think up there for sure. My favorite color is green, so I may come across bias by the end of this video. So you guys will see. Cadaver. Cadaver is a 1/2. At the end of each turn, when he's destroyed in that turn, he'll come back. And funny enough, this card is just super versatile. He's basically fodder for any card that wants to destroy other cards to get benefits, like Vampire, Obombo, stuff like that. But it's just great. It's a great defensive card too. And when you combine it with Onryo, it creates this like really strong wall that makes it a lot harder to get over your defenses. But it's just it's a very unique card. When I was designing this card, I really liked the card Spirit Reaper in Yu-Gi-Oh! And so I tried to base it kind of off of that a little bit, but I didn't want something that was permanent because that was too strong, having permanence, like indestructible or something. And so I just kind of gave it a more regenerative thing to make it seem like it's more of a corpse that doesn't really, it keeps coming back, you know? So yeah, I think this one's definitely up there. I think one of my absolute faves for sure. Love the art, love the entrance. It's a very cool card. Yeah. Koenig. So Koenig is a Scottish spirit. She is a lonely kind of spirit. She kind of roams the moors of Scotland, and she is a 2/4. And at the end of each turn, so not just your own turn, but each turn, she deals 2 damage to an opponent's stamina, which is huge. Her stats are already like on curve, which is great, and she does 2 damage when you just leave her there. She instantly puts pressure on any player, and she's won games not single-handedly, but like almost. I really like the design. I've changed her a little bit for the new artwork. You guys will see her color palette is a little different. But I really enjoy her design. I think it's a really cool effect. I can't remember what I was inspired by mechanically for her, but a very fun card, very strong card, and very versatile as well. So I would definitely put her up in the super cool. I would say probably above Balor here. Something like that. Cauldron. So Cauldron recently got changed before the tournament started. It is a card that buffs the Weird Sisters, and I do like the art, you know, the Cauldron, Toil and Trouble, all that good stuff. I would give it a... I haven't played with it much in this new iteration. I do like the idea. I think it's enjoyable. I would need to try it more to really find the fun with it for sure. Cerberus. This card is basically discard's best friend. So when you discard it, you get to play it for free, and it gets +2 power, which is insane. It's a 4/4 if I remember correctly, and you get a lot of good stuff from this card. Yeah, 4/4 +2 power. So you get a 4/6 for free, and it can be discarded from the top of the deck. There's some cards that do that, like Sahak. And yeah, any cards that discard from the hand, you're going to be benefiting from Cerberus's ability. And also it's just 4 power for energy at the end of the day. So if you can't use it for anything, it's just going to sit here in your hand, and you can just play it out or sacrifice it for energy, which is really cool. I also love the artwork I did for it. If you guys don't know, Cerberus technically usually has a manticore reptilian-like tail, so that's what that is here. And yeah, the dogs are menacing. Love the teeth that I've done, and the sheen's really cool. So definitely love that there. I would say this is super cool. I'm not the biggest fan of discard, but I know people like that kind of archetype, so I have put it in there. I will say this is probably above Black Mass, I would say. Churro. So this is an Indian spirit. She has her legs backwards. That's not you guys misviewing this. It is a very defensive spirit. It's a 2/3, if I recall. Where are you, Churro? Yeah, Churro is a 2/3. She is very powerful as a defensive card. So when she's defending, she reduces the attacking enemy spirit's power by half, rounded up. So she's effectively the trap card Mirror Wall, which I loved in Yu-Gi-Oh! And I put it into a spirit that's very vengeful and defensive. So she's striking a cool like JoJo pose, which I kind of did as an accident, and I kind of just leaned into it because I liked it. She is easily one of my favorite type of cards in card games. Very much so in Yu-Gi-Oh! And I tried to kind of recreate that here. I also love the design. It was kind of an accident with her outfit and everything, but I was just looking at how she's typically described and stuff like that, and this is what I came up with. So I would say she's one of my absolute faves, probably just above Cadaver. Very iconic card. A lot of people like her and hate her, which I think is what you want from a card game. You want like strong opinions on something, you know. Kuka. So Kuka is a Brazilian spirit, and she is a witch, alligator witch woman. And she creates the card in Sacribit. She creates the card Nightmare, which is this card here, and it basically gives her a buff and gives everyone else a negative power. If I remember correctly, I believe she gets +2 and everyone gets -1. Yeah, so Kuka is a 5/3, and so when she's played, she creates Nightmare, and Nightmare gives +2 power to Kuka, and then enemy spirits -1 power. And then Nightmare can't attack itself, but it is a 3/2. So Kuka, I think, is a really cool design. I really like the sprites and the pose and like the magic power that she has in her hand there. I really didn't know about this card when I made the game. I only kind of just put the name as a placeholder, and then when I actually researched a lot more for the sprite, I learned quite a lot, and it was really cool to see like all the detail and like where she's referenced and like the culture and stuff like that. So yeah, really fun card. I really think she turned out great. I can't really say I've used the card that much in terms of having it be one of my favorite types of effects, but I think she's super cool. I think probably above the Abbey Rooms, maybe above Ache as well. Just really like her overall spriting, and I think I did a good job on the robe and stuff like that. Dark Clown. So Dark Clown is like a 4/7, I believe. Yeah, 4/7. And when you play Dark Clown, you lose 5 life or 5 stamina. So just a very negative card to have, but essentially super high statted. Basically above Bigfoot in terms of usability. You're just hurting yourself from it. Now you can use cards like Mothman to kind of remove the ability, so you can play it for free without getting the ability to hurt yourself. Or you can combine it with Shinigami and other cards that want to benefit from having your life be lower, or a certain amount. It's just a very cool card, very powerful, and it's actually referenced in one of the card backgrounds that I will be showing to you guys sometime soon. Some of the backgrounds in Sacribit for the card art, they kind of hint at little Easter eggs about the other spirits and stuff like that, so you guys will kind of see that as we go. But Dark Clown, super cool design. I love the pose that I got him into. I would definitely say super cool. I'd say probably above Bola Bog, something like that. And his archetype, it kind of based it on sort of like the negative cards in Marvel Snap, like cards that have ongoing effects or abilities that like are hurtful, and so you use like Sauron to turn them off, stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool. Deev. So Deev, I really like him. He's basically like an Indian ogre. He's going through kind of a big transformation in terms of his sprite. So he's gonna be a lot bigger and a different color palette. But he basically throws the boulder, and he's gonna throw junk into your deck. I think I really do like this idea. I think his sprite, yeah, I would definitely put him above I'll put him above Batibat, I think. Yes, I like the token probably better than Div. Not the most happy with the sprite, but we're going to update that. So, Egg Ghost. So, Egg Ghost is a Korean spirit. Basically, it kidnaps children. So, Egg Ghost is basically Killmonger, if you guys remember correctly. So, I believe it was a 3/3. Yeah, so it's a 3/3, and it destroys all 1-cost spirits in play. So again, yours or your opponent's. So it can destroy Mummy or any other thing like that. It's very similar to Bloody Mary, so there is a very good chance that Egg Ghost or Bloody Mary gets changed. Because they don't fulfill the same role, but they are very similar, if that makes sense. There might be, because I don't believe currently there's a reason to use both unless you really want to destroy weak cards, which is possible in the game, right? But I think her new art, her updated art, is a lot cooler. It's basically the same pose. I've just updated the hands and kind of made the shading a little better. I think she is very indifferent to me, unfortunately. Even though I really like the sprite art, I think very indifferent on the ability. Probably one of these two are going to get changed. I'm not sure how yet, but if you guys have ideas, definitely throw them my way. AJ. So AJ is an original spirit in Sacribit, so created from my own mind. He's basically a samurai warrior that dies and comes back to life, and he has a version of himself that's upgraded called Shin AJ. This card is basically a replication of the Bucky Barnes in Marvel Snap, where once he's destroyed, he kind of gets stronger, and once he's destroyed again, he kind of swaps back to his old self. So you kind of, and the great thing about him is that when you attack with him, if he gets destroyed during the attack or unify, you get to attack with him again, because he's technically a new version of himself, like played out onto the board. So very strong card in the Destroy archetype, and the key is just maneuvering him in the right way to kind of make sure that he's always in Shin AJ form and not regular AJ, because regular AJ is just 2/1, but 2/7 is his Shin AJ form. So very, very strong card. I love this type of archetype again, so I'm gonna put him up probably even above Basilisk. Honestly, I love this card and archetype so much. Let's grab the Shin AJ version as well, because they're kind of the same. I'm gonna put them up at the top here. Probably Shin AJ more than here. If you guys don't know, these poses are kind of reminiscent of Akuma in Street Fighter. He's hitting the Satsuno pose, and then the arms crossed behind the back Raging Demon pose. So that's kind of my nod to games I like. Okay, El Cibon. So super powerful card. Very early on, a lot of players pick this card up because it's very easy to use, and you kind of don't have to really do anything. You just play the game, and based on the void, he gets a lot more power. I really like the sprite that I've updated. I fixed his hat sizing so it fits his head, and the sack of the colors, his brown colors was updated so you can see the hands a bit clearly from the bones that he's carrying. I really like the card. I think I would probably say he's super cool. I don't think I pick him personally, so maybe I'm gonna say enjoyable. Maybe bottom of this. Yeah, I think something like that makes sense. Okay, Udamon. So Udamon is a Greek protector angel. When he's played, so he's a very high stated card. Again, similar to like the bad effect sort of, but when you play Udamon, all players gain 3 life or stamina, and he's a 2/6, so he's quite high statted. Not as strong as Shin AJ, but way up there. And again, at the beginning of the game, when everyone's at max life anyway, you get a 2/6. It's really good. And for 2, that's not bad at all. And if you're low on life and your opponent's at full life, gaining 3 life is not bad either. So very versatile. Multiple types of decks he can be placed in. But I think I've updated his sprite to look even better, so I'm very excited to show those changes. But I would say he is enjoyable. I think not my ideal favorite type of card, but I put him probably above enjoyable here. Yeah. Okay, Eye Collector. So Eye Collector is a unique spirit, again created for Sacribit specifically. This is one of my old drawings that I've done, not this specifically, but this character is from a really old phase of drawings I created. Kind of like in a horse, so he's like an eye salesman, so he collects eyes, like, you know, those people that flash you and then all they have like a bunch of like watches and like rare jewelry and stuff like that. That's kind of the idea with Eye Collector. And if you guys don't know, his ability is he gets stronger the more 1-cost cards are in play. So essentially, yeah, so he gains +1 power for each active 1 energy spirit, and he's already a 4/3, so he can stack and snowball pretty quickly, especially if you're bringing your own 1-cost cards and your opponent is doing so as well. So just a very strong card in the weenie kind of archetype, but also a good counterplay if your opponent wants to swarm with a lot of low-cost cards, and just 4 energy is just really good to have in your hand. So I really love the design. He has a really cool entrance as well where he kind of reveals himself. Yeah, I'm kind of biased, but I'm pretty sure he's one of my absolute faves, but his ability is kind of not my most favorite thing. I do like Weenie Swarm. I think he's at the bottom of my absolute faves. Yeah. I think just for the ability alone, but his design, I really love this kind of idea. Faceless Phantom of Venice. So Faceless Phantom of Venice is a 1/3. When you play him, the next spirit you play, it costs 2 less to play. So it's a big discount on anything that you have, especially if you have stuff that's expensive. It's such a massive discount. And I really like the shading on the cloak and the clothing here. It's very simple, very few colors are used, but I think I just did such a good job of capturing like the shape of the drapery and stuff like that. And he's got really cool pose as well that I like. He's kind of like bowing and revealing. Yeah, and he's the other Phantom in the games. There's Phantom of the Opera and Faceless Phantom Venice, so kind of like two brothers. I haven't really played with this effect too much. I'm not really big on the discounting effects, even though I know that's a strong thing, but I really love his art. I would actually put him above Zada, I think. Yeah, I really like this artwork and the pose. Characters with masks, I'm a really big fan of in general, so you can see why I'm putting him up there. Frankenstein's Monster. I think this card is good. It's a 5/4. If I can make sure. 5/3. But yeah, if you have 5 or more cards in your void, he gets +4 power, so he becomes a 5/7. I just saw the movie Frankenstein on Netflix. It was good, but like a little disappointing in some ways. But I love this character so much. So if you guys don't know, the Mary Shelley version is what we based it on, because that's the one that's not copywritten. The universal version of Frankenstein with like the bolts in the head, the green skin, that is what's copyrighted. So definitely if you guys are using Frankenstein in your own games or your own stories, don't take that one because you'll get sued like crazy. The Mary Shelley version has yellow skin, thin long black hair, and black lips, which you kind of see on this sprite here. I love Frankenstein. I also love the entrance I did. I have some like lightning crashing, stuff like that. And his effect is solid. It's just a solid like beater, basically. Yo, Kip, what's going on? Netflix show? Oh, no, the movie. The Frankenstein movie. The Guillermo del Toro one? Yeah, it was just... If I can talk specifically about it without spoiling anything, I think it's just that I think Guillermo is like a really good filmmaker in that he does a really beautiful job of displaying the tone and like the setting. The visuals are amazing, stuff like that. And he has really good scenes out of context, but I think overall the story didn't hit because there's a lot of conflicting messaging, but not in a way that's cohesive to the whole plot. Versus like someone like I think it's what's lacking is that his overall storytelling is not that strong. If you compare to someone like if you watch like Pinocchio, his version of Pinocchio, that was such a consistent through line of storytelling, and the message of the story was very clear throughout the whole thing. And the main message by the end was like just a resounding clear as crystal, basically. But then in Frankenstein, it's kind of all over the place, and I haven't read the book, but my partner who has, she was telling me about it, and like how the differences don't really make the story better. It actually makes it a bit worse in that it kind of changes everything too much. I did like one idea that like he doesn't die, and I find that's more of a reason to want to come out of this curse. But I think they made him too kind and too nice, because it kind of makes Victor seem like it was a good idea for him to do this creation of a monster. You know what I mean? Even though he did a lot of bad things, and yeah, it's just kind of, I mean, we can talk about it more in person, but like, I loved it to some degree, but like, it was just, I would give it like a 7.5 out of 10. Like, the thing I love about Guillermo is that he always takes a risk, and I always find it interesting and fascinating. Like, I don't really care if his movies are ever bad, because like, he makes like a presentable film, and he always takes a chance in whatever vision he has for it. And I'd rather see that 100 times over than any like average filmmaker that is just trying to be safe and, you know, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, definitely chat more. I would love to. So yeah, Frankenstein, right between Balor and Cerberus, I think, for me. Gremlin of Fremlin. So obviously with Fremlin, the Gremlin of Fremlin. We'll rate these two together. So I think, so this is my cat Beanie, if you guys don't know. He's a local spirit to Vancouver. I agree, Kip. He's definitely one of the ones making interesting stuff. I think Denis Villeneuve is like probably the other one I would say. I will watch anything, anytime. The difference between those two is that Denis has like amazing storytelling skills. Like that's why a lot of his films have very little dialogue. It can just nail a story perfectly and like communicate, get you on board, and he's very consistent with his theming. I think that's where Guillermo kind of is not on the same level. Maybe not intentionally, I don't know, but because there's Crimson Peak as well that Guillermo also did, and I like that movie too, but like there's a lot of ways where it falls flat, and again, it's from the storytelling and the plot, which I think also Frankenstein was lacking. So anyway, that's another thing. But I would say for Gremlin and Gremlin, so Gremlin basically puts a Gremlin into their deck, so it's a junk card. Very strong card. A lot of people say it's overpowered. But I think it's in a good spot. I think strong, viable. It's also a bit versatile, and you could play it in a few ways by like, you know, either repeating this in a junk deck or just like good removal. And it's a fun little critter that you can kind of cycle as much as you can, which can kind of tie into with Bobby Negpet and stuff like that. I'm going to be biased since I based it on my cat's design. I think I'm going to definitely put it in one of my faves. Same with the gem. Definitely up there. Friendly Ghost. So Friendly Ghost used to be based on Casper. Some of you are aware of that. But Friendly Ghost is a 1/3, so when you destroy Friendly Ghost or discard him, you get +3 energy. So this happens also on your own turn or your opponent's turn. So if that happens, you can't really do anything with that. But it's very versatile. It's actually the most popular card currently in the tournament lists. This card is definitely getting changed in some form. I'm not convinced how to change this card yet, but he's on the hit list right now because any card that's too popular should be changed in some way depending on the reason. But so far I haven't really seen any toxic play patterns yet that have been like completely overwhelming. So curious to see how it develops, and my opinion may change when the tournament's over, but we'll see. But overall, I really like the design. You know, he's doing a friendly wave when he comes in, and he's very cute, classic card. You know, it's a ghost, right? You know, nothing offensive, nothing crazy. The effect, I think, has not really been super enjoyable for my specific playstyle. So I would just say probably the bottom of enjoyable for me. I think some people may find it more enjoyable than others. Let's do this. So the Moon and Werewolf. So the Moon, if you guys don't know, I love Yu-Gi-Oh! If you haven't noticed already, but there's an episode where Yugi fights Mako Tsunami, and there's a moment in the episode where during the duel, Yugi attacks the Moon. And the moon is a card it's a magic card that's played, and he basically buffs his Silver Fang Wolf card. And so I kind of created these characters or this mechanic based on that. So you in Sacribit, you can actually attack with the moon. It's a one cost card with 2 energy or the 2 power. And you can attack with it as much as you want, and it gives the werewolf power as well. It basically becomes a 3/7 with the moon in play. And if you destroy the moon, loses the 2 power, all that sort of stuff. Really cool combo. I think not many people are using werewolf generally when people make constructed decks, but I think they're missing out. Werewolf is really strong, honestly. And if you can and the thing is, the moon will cycle back into your deck, and if you play another werewolf, you'll create another moon into your deck, and you can really like ramp him up if you needed to. The moon is one of the only tokens that can attack. Most tokens aren't able to attack, so it's quite unique in that aspect as well. Yeah, so I think werewolf probably one of my absolute faves, and same with the moon. I would put the moon probably above being gremlin and gemlin, I think. Just like that, yeah. It's really enjoyable for me, honestly. Gaki. So Gaki's a 2/6. When you play him, destroys all your active spirits. So kind of like a self-destructive card. They're basically Japanese yokai that eat people and just like are zombies effectively. But they destroy everything around them in sight. So kind of why the effect is that way. I enjoy this effect. And the design is cool. I have changed the sprite a little bit, color palette wise, to make it pop a little more. I would say this is probably at the bottom of super cool, maybe enjoyable. I'd say enjoyable up there. Okay, Golem. So Golem is a Jewish spirit from folklore, and he creates little golem clay lumps here. I really like this because it reminds me kind of like Sandman and a little bit of like Clayface from Batman. And I like stuff that generates tokens after being destroyed. I think that really fits the theme of the character. And also love the posing, like, you know, really massive and destructive, kind of Hulk-like. And then you have like this little clay thing that's like just super jazzed to be there. Yeah, I love these guys. These are really cool cards. They're 4/6 or 4/5 and 1/3s. So I think these are pretty up there for me. I think probably above Balor. Not one of my absolute faves, but I do like this a lot. I like it a lot. Death. So let's see Death here. So Death is quite a strong card. I think probably one of the strongest cards in the game. And I really love the sprite that I've done for him. Got the scythe and everything, green flame for the power. Really love it. I would say, so Death is a 5/1. When you play Death, it adds your lowest power spirit, or your lowest energy spirit from your void to play. It doesn't trigger the when played effect, but it still gets you a free card, and it's really strong because of that. Fun fact, this used to bring 2 spirits from the void into play, which was busted. So that's been changed for a good reason. I really like this type of effect, and I really like the combo, the Sacribit combo that people have kind of came up with day one, where you sacrifice a 5 cost, and then you play Death with that 5 cost energy, and then you get that 5 cost into play, which is really cool. So I think it's a fun little combo that people have done. And we saw it in the tournament already. So I would definitely say this is really up there for me. Probably above Cerberus. Probably above Frankenstein, actually. I really like this artwork and the design. I can't really think of a card in any other game that does this. I'm sure there are, but like none that I resonate with. Yeah. Got Hades next. So Hades is basically similar to the card Null and Death from Marvel Snap. So basically every time a card is destroyed, he gets power. And it's a 5 cost, it's a 1 powered card, so he gets really strong over time, and effectively has no cap. So the longer the game goes, the higher power he's going to get. I think currently in the tournament, the highest we've seen Hades get to is 19, so you haven't hit the 20 power limit yet, so we're getting close. But yeah, very strong card, very useless late early game. I wouldn't say useless because 5 energy is still useful in your hand, but nothing that is game breaking. And the thing is, a single in Sacribit, if you guys haven't figured this out already from playing, but a single card can't really win you the game without help from other cards and things happening. Typically, so especially when you unify, you're only dealing the damage from the weaker unified spirit. So you have to get something equally strong as Hades in order to get that kind of thing. Some people, like Kip in the chat, has tried with the Weird Sisters because they also ramp up from the Cauldron. So ideally, if you ramp up the Cauldron to ramp up the Weird Sisters and you have a late game Hades, you could win the game in one unify. But it's very difficult to set up, and usually the game will probably end quicker than you get that to happen. Definitely not impossible, but more unlikely and not as common. So I think that's why it's fine to kind of have this type of thing scale like this. But Hades, I really like the design. I love the fabric and like the big foreshortening. Big fan of that. I would say this effect as well is really cool. So I would actually put this above Boulder. Probably above Asada, actually. Not one of my faves, but up there for sure. Really like this kind of design. Haunted Presence. So Haunted Presence is kind of the reverse of Basilisk, where it's more aggressive. So each time your opponent defends with the spirit, they pay 2 stamina or 2 life. I made an adjustment to the new sprite. Actually, you know what? I will show you guys because this is really cool. You guys are going to really enjoy this update. So this is the new Haunted Presence compared to the old one. So you guys will see. Give you a close-up. So reveal for the first time, but this is the old one. This is the new one. So kind of give him a lot more detail, more specific cloth, and change the color palette just a bit, just so it's a bit more clear and more contrast between the shades. And I fixed the hand as well, so it's a little more believable to the shading here. I think this is really cool. I enjoy this very much compared to this one. So you guys can see the difference there. Yeah, love the design. But we're basing off of this current design and the ability. I think this is a cool ability for aggro decks. Probably something I wouldn't use, but I do like the sprite and the pose a lot. Like the silhouette is completely unique to the game. I would put this above Koenig, honestly. I really would just keep it there. Headless Horseman. This card is a kind of a big favorite in the tournament. People love Discard, and they love Headless Horseman. So this card wasn't really touched early in the game, but I think people have kind of realized that it's very strong to have this kind of effect, especially combined with other cards that want to be discarded, like Cerberus and stuff like that. This spirit took me the longest to draw because there is a horse and a horseman. And the trick with this is that I did look at a lot of horse reference to kind of get this kind of right. But the challenge I had was I was trying to create foreshortening, but the difference was that it was highlighting the horse too much versus the horseman. So I had to kind of play with this kind of perspective a bit more so I could get the head to be foreshortened, as you kind of see it in the sprite now. But I think this turned out really well. Very clear, very powerful, very menacing. I love the Ichabod Crane Disney animated short film. So I was kind of really trying to inject any of that personality into this, but still be faithful to the folklore of it. So it's not really it's not actually a pumpkin. In the more original folklore, it's actually his head being held like that. So I think that's what we settled on, and I think this, outside of the design, is probably in the super cool. I really like how this turned out as a sprite. May get nerfed, may get buffed, we'll have to see, but yeah, very, very strong card as well in the meta currently. Hecate. So did a lot of research on this card, and apparently this is more so Hecate is the Shakespearean pronunciation, but Hecate is the Greek, more common pronunciation in American and British speech, basically. So Hecate is the way to say it, not Hecate, unless you're only talking about a Shakespearean context. But she's Queen of the Underworld. She's getting a massive update in the sprite, completely reworked. So this won't be what you guys see anymore in the game after the tournament. But I will reveal that at some point during the patch notes. But yeah, not today. So I already did one little reveal. But Hecate as a card, she's basically a 5/6, if I remember. Yeah, she's a 5/6, and she has a very unique ability in kind of breaking the game rules. In that, so when she unifies with another spirit, she destroys an enemy spirit. So you use her power instead of the other spirits, the weaker spirits' power. So she can unify with someone like Cadaver, and then Cadaver will be destroyed, but then she'll do 3 damage to the opponent's life or stamina, which is great. So if you have cards that buff her, like Capre, Che, right? Anything like that, Holy Ghost, if you just ramp her power really high, you can do massive damage with a Unify and still keep her out in play because she's never the one being destroyed. Super, super, super good. I think only one person has really caught on to how strong Hecate really is. But yeah, very, very cool card. I think I can't wait to break her, and I'm very excited about the new sprite. I would say she's super cool. I think definitely up here. I like cards that break kind of universal mechanics, but in a way that's fun and creative instead of like just game breaking and obviously strong and all that sort of stuff. Holy Ghost, speaking of, Holy Ghost is essentially a bird, a dove. Very powerful card, self-buffing or buffs other cards when you play it, and it's a 4 cost card. 4/6 if I remember correctly. Yeah, 4/6 plus you gives +3 power to another active spirit of yours. And when that spirit gets destroyed, it basically changes the buff to the next available spirit, which is really cool and really powerful. I think a lot of people are going to catch on that this card is quite strong because it effectively gives anything a massive buff in 3 power, and some that need more power are just really helpful. Like imagine getting Jersey Devil a 7, giving it 10 power. Like it's insane, right? A 3/10. Even Jin having a 1/5 become a 1/8. Like that's insane. So yeah, I think people are gonna break this card. This card will probably have to get changed in some way. But until then, have fun. So we'll see. Really love the pose as well. I really have been getting better at drawing feathers and wings and birds and stuff like that. So I'm gonna give it a super cool. I'm gonna put it above Boulder, I think. Maybe because I really like the effect. I put it above Golem, I think. Yeah. Jersey Devil. So Jersey Devil is the strongest 3-cost card. So it's a 3/7. And while he's in play, so while active, he gives -1 to every other active spirit, so including your own. So that may be a good thing, maybe a bad thing, depending. But he's very strong. Very strong card. Has kind of not carried, but like controlled the board massively from his effect and his just power presence. I really like how I designed him, and I really do like the sprite. It's very unique. If you guys have seen the Swan Princess, there is a Jersey Devil looking like card, like monster as the final villain. Definitely recommend watching it if you guys haven't already. It's quite a good classic. I think he is cool. I'd probably put him above the Abbey Rooms. Yeah. I thought I would put him higher. I guess not. I think I'd put him above. Yeah, not above Black Mask, but just below. Yeah, I think something like that. Jin. So Jin is a 1/5. So while he's active, every turn your opponents must attack with their spirits. So it's basically like a force attack kind of card. And Jin's getting a massive sprite update as well. He's getting completely changed just to kind of fit more with his folklore a bit more. But I do like the pose, so I'll probably try my best to keep that pose as much as possible. But I really like this effect. This is kind of like a defensive deck, and if you combine it with stuff like Basilisk, it's really cool. I would say this is really up there for me. I would put it probably above Azada, I think. Just a very cool card, very versatile, and you can be aggro or it can be defensive, kind of really up to you. I like cards that kind of force you to hit yourself in the face, if that makes sense. Kappa. So Kappa is a very discard heavy card, so it's a 3/2, and whenever a card is discarded, whenever you discard a card, it gets +1 power. So it can just ramp up like Morbius from Marvel Snap. A lot easier in some cases, like Zahak can discard 2 cards from the top of your deck. Headless Horseman as well. But I haven't really seen too many people mess with him, even though he's kind of a discard monster. But yeah, I really like the sprite work. It's very cool and simple, very tiny and annoying to deal with, but he does grow, obviously. I would say he's growing on me a bit. The more I see him, it's kind of, he has like a mean kind of face. But yeah, not my personal style, but I know people like discard and those type of effects, so I put him in the game like this. Capre. Capre is a Filipino spirit. He is a 4/3, and when you play him, the next spirit you play gets +2 power. This is similar to Forge from Marvel Snap, which I love as a card, but this card is a higher cost version of Forge. And he's smoking a cigar. Yes, that's what you're seeing. I really like this design. Again, I've told you guys, I like drawing buff characters. Muscular characters are one of my favorite types of things to draw. So I would definitely put it up there. Kind of looks like Tarzan a little bit. I'm probably going to put him pretty high. I think probably around Holy Ghost space here. Something like that. Capre. Alright, Kikamura. So Kikamura is a very interesting card. It's gone through quite a few changes throughout the life of Sacribit. Started sort of as a card that was like swapping energy and power values on the board, but recently have changed it to be a sort of, what's the best way to say this? Sort of like an indestructible wall. So basically, while active, if your deck has 10 or more cards, this cannot be removed from play for any reason. And it's a 3/4. So obviously not that strong power-wise, but if you generate a few tokens that get put into your deck, or your opponent generates tokens into your deck, this card is massively powerful. And putting any stats on this is huge. So you basically have a way to attack directly and not have to put it into the void. You have a character that can be unified in almost indefinitely, like every single turn you can unify with it and it doesn't go anywhere. And currently in the game, there's no way to remove cards from your deck permanently, so this card can be a permanent annoyance for the opponent. I'm pretty sure this card is breakable. I just haven't seen people do it yet, so I'm very curious. I'm making this a casting call, so if you think you can break Kikamura, try, because I don't think you can do it, because I've tried from like playtesting. I'm sure there's a way though. I'm sure there's a way. But I really like this. It has rooster feet, a very, very specific design, and I really like the pose as well. I'm going to put her in super cool. I think probably below, probably just above Div, I think. Yeah, I would say probably above Div, I think, in my favorites. Yeah. Killer Doll. So Killer Doll is a 1/3, and it can attack a player directly, and it can't be defended. So when it attacks alone. So essentially, it is very similar to those cards from like back in the Yu-Gi-Oh days, like Legul, Jinzo #7, where they could just attack directly for free, but they're very weak in terms of their power. So this is kind of based on Chucky, before I made like my own spirits and stuff like that. So Killer Doll is one of those, like a very mannequin with a knife. Yeah, I love the pose. I drew this on my phone at first and then kind of updated it in Acebright. But I really like this type of effect. I think this is one of my favorites. Very, very cool, and I like the woodsy kind of pattern I've created on him. King Arthur. So King Arthur is a amazing card. I love, love, love this archetype so much. It's similar to Yu-Gi-Oh! In that you assemble the pieces of the Sirs and Merlin, and you're going to get King Arthur. King Arthur is a 7/10, which is the only type of its kind. Yes, it's a 7/9, sorry. But when you create King Arthur, he destroys all active spirits. So he basically does a dark hole, effectively. And I really love the design. So all the King Arthur knights of the Round Table and stuff like that, they're all undead, because that fits the game better. This kind of spooky, kooky kind of theming. So if I made them real life people, they wouldn't fit the vibe of the game. So I made them look a bit monstrous and demonic, which fits a lot better. And he's swinging Excalibur. I love the knight, the suit of armor and the cape and the expression. He's just like, raw. So yeah, one of my favorite designs I think I've ever done, and I really love, he's like an Exodia effect, but he doesn't auto win the game. I think that's what I was a big fan of. It's likely that you win because that is a very powerful effect to have, but it doesn't guarantee that you win the game. But it's like almost likely, and there's ways to counter it, which is, you know, kind of up to the opponent. But yeah, love this card. One of my absolute faves. I would put it above Basilisk, I would say. This is like really up there for me. Really up there. Kishi. Kishi is a 2/5 that is allowed to attack twice. Very solid card. There's a card in Yu-Gi-Oh called Mataza the Zapper, and it was a 3 energy card or 3 level card with 1300 attack, and it was a samurai basically, which I love. And he could attack twice, and I would equip him with like high-powered stuff like Mage Power, United We Stand, basically anything that buffs his attack immensely, and then you just swing twice with it, and it was really cool. There's nothing like that specifically in this game. I mean, you can use Holy Ghost as an equip card, technically, or Capre, right, to buff him. So you can make it be a 7-power card, and you can attack twice. But it's a African spirit that has a jackal on the back of his head, so that was kind of the idea there. But I would say this is a cool design. I think he's just enjoyable for me as a archetype. I think this type of effect is not nearly as effective as I felt it would be. I would put it above Angel for sure. Kuchisaki Onna. So this card is quite useful in many circumstances, especially if you build your deck in a very specific way. But basically, Kuchisaki Onna is going to, when played, reveal the top card of your deck, and if it has less power than this, Kuchisaki Onna gains +4 power, and it's a 4/4. So getting a 4/8 out there in a constructed way is very powerful. I think in draft is not nearly as strong, but I love the sprite art, love the pose, love the scissors and the bloody smile. One of my absolute faves, easily. I think probably above Killer It All as well. Love this card. Super cool. I think I was surprised as well. Once I finished it, I was kind of more surprised than when I was creating it originally. So sometimes that happens. Lady in Red. So Lady in Red is a cool card. She kind of also breaks the rules of the game. She is a 4/0, and when played, she swaps herself with the highest energy card in an opponent's void. And if it's a tie, you get to choose. So this is the only way to actually permanently give something to the opponent. Normally when you take something like from Phantom of the Opera, you have to give the card back once it's destroyed, because going to the void is essentially a way to reset, but this kind of skips that step and you kind of give the card directly. Lady in Red is very similar to Bloody Mary in terms of the folklore, and her design is based off multiple ones that I've combined. So she's always wearing a red dress. The most popular one in Canada is she was in a car accident in the Roaring 20s, and I also made her African American because or black. I made her that way because I wanted her to reflect and hint a little bit to the original card it was based on, which was from the movie Us. So she was actually playing Red from the movie Us, if you guys have seen that film. So that's why she looks the way she does, and she looks a little like Lupita Nyong'o in that film. So kind of like multiple nods kind of coming together into one card. So yeah, really like this design, and love this card. I think I'm definitely putting her up there in super cool. I would probably say, above Cerberus. I haven't played with her too much, and I'm pretty sure there's a way to break her. But again, it's contextually based on the opponent's cards that they bring. So, Lauma. So Lauma is a woodland spirit. She is basically like a maiden of the forest. She has a very cool ability, and I'm shocked shocked that no one uses Lauma. I love this card. I love the design. It's like a leafy spirit, and she's a 3-1 or 3-2. 3-2? 3-3. I think I can't remember now. Let's find her. Yeah, she's a 3-3. So when you play her, she plays a random spirit from your deck, and if you do, it gives her -2 power. So super, super strong in that she can just get something for free out to you, and it can be anything, and it triggers the when played ability, which is super powerful, especially if you build your deck in a certain way. So this card gets stuff out really quickly, and it could swing the game in your favor. There's a chance it could hurt you, but like the great thing about her is that she makes herself weaker, sometimes as a detriment, but often if you build your deck in the right way, it's discard fodder or destroy fodder, and you can cycle her pretty quickly as well because her power is so weak. She's not really meant to be attacking, but she's just kind of meant to get stuff out and like tag team with stuff. It's a really cool card. Love the sprite I made for her as well. I really did a good job on the perspective of her back, showing her back and stuff like that, and the leaf kind of covering her body. Yeah, I love this design. I didn't think I would, but when I started playing with her more in decks, I really liked her. I think she's past Bunyip for me, actually. This is like a surprise hit for me. So yeah, really love how she turned out. Layak. So Layak is a very interesting card. He is a 4-3. Confirm that real quick. Layak. Yeah, 4-3, and when he's played, he destroys a random card from your deck, and he deals the power of that card to the opponent's life or stamina, which is humongous. So if this hits like a Hades, like a buffed Hades, like it's gonna do a ton of damage. Obviously you're kind of gambling with it, and if you build your deck correctly, if you know there's only 15 cards in your deck in Sacribit, so it's very easy to hit something that you can probably guess what it's going to hit. And this is hands down won games based on just what was drawn, because you play something, you hit something with it that deals enough damage to now put them in kill range with like a Unify or something. So very, very strong card, and it's a very fun card as well because it's kind of like a gambling card. Yeah, it's very hard for it to be a downside for yourself, but again, not very strong presence. It's more about the effect, and it's such a visually cool card. I love the design. It's supposed to be a demon head, essentially, with like intestines, a heart hanging, and lungs. That's what you see there, and his spinal column just hanging like that. So really cool pose and really intense expression. So love this design, love this card. I think one of my absolute faves, probably above Killer Doll and Kuchisaki Onna, honestly. Yeah. Lua. So as mentioned before, I love United We Stand from Yu-Gi-Oh! So the card that basically buffs yourself the more monsters you have in play. So I want to create a similar effect in Lua. Basically this is Baron Samdi, I think. Basically this is one of the... Lua is a type of spirit in folklore, and there are many different types of Lua. So this specific one is one that is similar to the one from New Orleans, where he's basically part of voodoo culture and has a top hat and everything. So basically, Lua is a 3-2 that gets +2 power per spirit you control. So outside of itself. So if you have cards that swarm, like zombie, werewolf as well, calling back to werewolf, you can ramp Lua pretty high, pretty quickly. It's a good card. I think not many people are using it right now because they're trying to figure out the meta. But I think this could definitely be built around and definitely has a high ceiling. So if you're curious on an underutilized archetype, if you're like a low tier hero or underexplored hero, definitely give Lua a shot. I really like the pose and the sprite as well. Definitely one of the later ones I've created, but I'm glad I waited to create it. I think this is super cool. I would say probably above Holy Ghost, I think. Yeah. Madeline. Madeline is a toxic card. She is very hated in, I think, every form of the game that I've had her in. So she's a 3-1. So when she's played, you discard your hand, and an opponent discards the same amount. So if you have 5 cards in your hand and you discard them, your opponent has to discard 5 cards. And the great thing or bad thing about it is that because you draw cards at the end of the turn, if you make someone discard cards at the end, they don't have a turn next game unless you don't have enough cards for them to discard. Very, very powerful card. Basically a card from the Fall of the House of Usher from Edgar Allan Poe. And love the pose. She's super menacing. She's very tall. She's supposed to be a very tall spirit. And yeah, I love how strong her effect is, but it takes work from the opponent. But people are going to hate this card. I know for sure once it gets into public circulation, people are not going to like this card. I personally don't like this card, but I think she is a necessary evil. She may get tweaked depending on the tournament findings, but yeah, she's here to stay, and I do like her artwork. I think she is enjoyable, but kind of at the bottom end for me personally. Maybe even growing on me. I would say even below Bobby Neckpet. Yeah. Magician of the Haunted. So Skull, one of Skull's favorites, one of our tournament players. He loves this card so much, and I really love it too. It is one of my favorite designs ever. And it's a unique spirit to Sacribit. I absolutely love this card, and love the pose, love the design. I was very influenced by Spawn, the 90s comic book character. That was actually the spot that Spawn was taking for this effect that Magician has. So Magician's effect is when you play it, it does -3. It gives -3 power to a spirit, and then if Magician of the Haunted is destroyed, you shuffle it back into the deck, and it's a 5/4, which is pretty good. So effectively, it's a 7-powered card because it removes 3 power, and you get 4 to swing with. It can outright kill certain or destroy certain spirits immediately. And you can target your own as well if you ever need to destroy something. So it is kind of effectively a destroy card as well, if you need to like proc Mummy or something else. And it just weakens like anything that's overstated or getting buffed already by something else. So super, super cool. And it goes into the deck, which makes it really versatile, and you can get it out quickly again, which is awesome. So it doesn't clog your void, which is really good. And honestly, I have to say, one of my faves. I can't say mechanically I don't know. I'm like pretty close to saying top 5. As a mechanic, I like King Arthur better. It's definitely above Basilisk. Yeah, I think it's top 5 for me, honestly. It's such a cool card. And if you guys don't know the folklore that we're revealing little by little, but he is a warrior or a servant of death, or the Grim Reaper. So that's why he has this power, and he is a magician who has unfortunately passed. Very cool. Mazikin. Mazikin is a really cool card. It's one of the only cards that has protection against something in the game, which no other card in the game does. So Mazikin is a Jewish spirit from folklore, essentially a demon, like a spawn of Satan kind of card. But he's a 2/6, which is quite high, and his benefit is that he's not destroyed by any effects. So cards like Balor, self-destruction like Gaki or whatever, you can really use him as just a solid beater. So if you guys remember Yugioh beatdown decks in like the 90s, this card kind of fits that archetype, and he's not able to be destroyed unless he's attacking or being destroyed from defending. Really cool card. I honestly can't say much about him, and I really love how I've dealt with him in the artwork. He's got a cool pose, and his entrance is really fun as well because he turns invisible during that. Again, very solid. I don't think absolute fave, but he's definitely in the... He doesn't have a flashy effect, but he's definitely above the Abbey rooms for me, I think. I think probably just above Batibat as well, because I think he's underexplored as well. Definitely so. Merlin. So Merlin is a very cool card. Part of the Sirs and everything to get King Arthur out. But Merlin is quite fun in that he has kind of like a sunspot ability from like Marvel Snap. So basically at the end of a turn, if there's any unspent energy, he gains +1 power per energy, essentially. So this includes your opponent as well. So if you guys know Marvel Snap at all, there's Red Hulk that gains energy when your opponent doesn't have has leftover energy. So he gains power per energy that is left over. So if you've overspent, or you just spend energy from your hand and you just end your turn with unspent energy, he's going to get really strong really fast. Easily one of my favorite artworks that I've done. Love the glow of the staff and the magic and stuff like that. And he's just a really cool 1-cost card, even outside of the Sur archetype. I'm going to definitely put him in super cool. And I think I put him above Golem, actually. Yeah, I really like him. Maliki. So Maliki is a kind of a tech card. She's similar to Valkyrie from Marvel Snap. I love the artwork, and Maliki is quite cool in that so when she's played, she sets all enemy spirits to 3 power, and she's a 4/4. So if that kind of alludes to what she does, she basically, if anyone is getting overbuffed, overstated, she kind of will bring them back down to reality. And she's got a really cool, mythic pose. With the hand sticking out, good foreshortening, like the line of action going through her cape. Yeah, I love the card. She's very strong actually in the tournament because she's kind of a good anti-buff card. And I do like the sprite. I think she's just enjoyable for me personally, but definitely above these other ones here. I think she has a lot of fun synergy as well, and I think I might actually change her effect slightly just for more fun. But yeah, really cool card. Minotaur. So Minotaur is a 4/4. Very unique ability in that he is able to, so when you play him, he swaps your deck with your Void. Now, there's a combo that was recently discovered that is actually quite insane. So Weird Sisters get power from the Cauldron, and that happens whenever a card enters the Void in any way. So that means if you have a Void of, if you have a deck of 10 cards, let's say, right? You play Minotaur and you have Cauldron in play, the Weird Sisters get +10 power. +10 power, which is insane. Very rare to set up because you basically have to have 3 cards, or 2 cards essentially, in rotation, and you have to have a lot of cards in your deck to get this off. What it's also really good for is for swapping stuff from your Void to your deck, so you can have a certain amount of cards for Shinigami's effect, or also to get Kikomura to stay enabled, right? Or to generically just also get cards from the Void back to your deck so you can play them out faster and repeat the abilities and stuff like that. So also love the fist, really cool pose. Was really happy with this one, and it feels really powerful. So I'm gonna say started out as a tech card, but I think I'm definitely putting it above Frankenstein's Monster. I think right here feels right for me. Very, very cool. Mokoi. So Mokoi is a creepy little demon of demons, like an underling of evil. And he's a very unique ability in that when you play him, he takes a random spirit from your Void and puts it back into your hand. And it's a 4/3. So it's a kind of a way to get more resources back to your hand and get something from the Void back to your hand so you can play it again. So if you just played something like, like a Gremlin, for example, you can use the ability again very easily. So very cool card. I love the artwork that I've created for it. And it's just a great pose. It looks very anorexic and bony, and I love the style of it. So, and I think this is also underexplored. I'm gonna say somewhere around here. I think probably above Lua. Yeah, this kind of feels right to me. Yeah. Okay, almost done. Mothman. So when Mothman is in play while active, no when played effects will happen. So it's kind of like Cosmo from Marvel Snap, so it turns off all when played effects. So again, those negative when played effects like Udamon, Dark Clown, they're not going to be possible. And also kind of shuts down other tech cards as well, like Balor, stuff like that. So really, really cool. It's a 3/4, so it's not super utilized right now, but I think it's definitely a strong tech card that will kind of show up more in very specific deck types and stuff like that. Also love the art, very creepy, very menacing. I definitely like this a lot. Effect not so much, so I think I'm gonna say super cool above these guys here. Okay, Mummy. So Mummy, I was really influenced by the Mummy movies from the 90s and early 2000s. So I love this design, kind of based on Emotep a little, but gave him a little gem in one of his eye sockets there. And he's just basically a destroy fodder character, so he's a 1/1, and when this is destroyed, +2, all your spirits get +2 power, which is great. Love the crab walk kind of pose that I've given him. Love the detailing on his body and like the grossness he kind of has. I will definitely say he is super cool. Probably above these guys. So Mummy's gonna go right here. Nightmare. Same with Kuka. I really like this pattern and design. It kind of looks like a nightmare scene. I will give right below Kuka right here. Obambo. So Obambo is a massive, massive card. It is a 5/7. I believe it's 5/7. Yeah, 5/7. And when he's played, he destroys all your spirits in play, but he gets +1 power per spirit destroyed. So again, kind of like a big buff card that kind of just gets stronger the more you give it. Kind of based on Destroyer from Marvel Snap a little bit, but like a little different. And I love this kind of carrion like swamp monster thing that like just gets more powerful as like time goes on. Yeah, I love the design. He grabs some like, you know, tree stuff, some vines and stuff like that. So really love the design, and I love the pose that he creates. He just looks massive, which he should be. Love this card. I think one of my favorites easily. I think honestly above Werewolf. Yeah, I love this card. Maybe. I think probably right there is a good spot. Obia. So Obia is a terroring evil, an evil being that basically visits villages and terrorizes, kidnaps things, steals energy, stuff like that. Very, very, very cool card. I love the pose I gave him. And when he's played, so he is quite unique in that he steals power. If I can find him here. So Obia, so he steals 2 power from an opponent's spirit, and he's already a 2/3, so he basically becomes a 2/5. So he's a 2/5 and he steals from the opponent, so he's effectively a 2/7 in the long scheme of things. But it's a very strong card, very versatile, and again, if any spirit has 0 power or less, it's destroyed, so it can remove stuff as well, similar to Magician of the Haunted, but less specific, more about buffing itself. So I want to see more people use Obia because I think it's kind of underutilized at this moment. But I really like the card. I think this is super cool. I would say probably above Azada. Yeah, I think probably there. Okay, Ogopogo. This is what you guys have been waiting for. Canadian. I'm biased because I'm Canadian. Love Osoyus. Love green serpent monsters, stuff like that. Like, this is kind of set to be probably my favorite, and honestly, like, I can't even doubt this is, and it's a very defensive card. It's a 4/6, 4/5, 4/5, and when he's defending, he gains +3 power. So already created, you know, a wonderful card in the archetype. He's a very strong staple card. He actually comes in the starter deck when you guys will play the digital version of the game. He's one of the first cards you'll have. And he's just a very good card overall. You can overbuff him so he gets even stronger. And he's just a massive wall, which I love. And love the design. He kind of based it on Gyarados a little bit in terms of the posing. But yeah, super cool card, super cool spirit. Canada represent, maple syrup all the way, hockey, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I think way up there. Number 2 spot for sure. Okay, Oni. So Oni is basically the game Sacribit's Shang-Chi or Shang-Chi. So he destroys all spirits that have 6 or more power. And he's a 4/3. So pretty much the same as Shang-Chi in that, and the power cap is a lot lower. I love the drawing and the pose. I just finished his entrance animation yesterday. So he basically slides in and he slams his big club. I love this card. I don't see this card played enough. I think this is very, very slept on currently. I don't think as crazy as Shang-Chi, but it's very powerful. I really enjoy this card. I don't think personally I use it too much. So I'm just going to put enjoyable. Maybe at the bottom. Yeah, maybe bottom of super cool. Because I really do like the pose and like the energy of this card. Onryo. So Onryo is a toxic card. Could be toxic. Basically, she is a never-ending defensive card. So once per turn, when she's destroyed, when a spirit is destroyed, play her from the void. So only if she's in the void, this effect can occur. And she's a 1/2. So a weak spirit that can be buffed with Bati-Bot, whatever. I love her posture and her posing. Basically crawling on the ground as a way to get revenge. I love this type of effect. I think almost absolute fave, but I think probably at the bottom. Just because I love this type of effect. And it's really fun to also combo her with Cadaver and have these two kind of cycle each other around. It's very fun and strong in Sacribit. Osiris is the next one. So Osiris is quite interesting. This card is hard to balance because he's a 5/2, and when you play Osiris, he copies the last while active effect that was played. So similar to Mystique in Marvel Snap, how he copies a while active effect. And you can kind of make this pretty broken in some ways, but it's very difficult to line it up because he's a 5-cost card. So kind of niche at the same time, but also just an effective 5-cost card to have in your deck, as long as you have the stuff to burn. I think not really intriguing for me personally. There's no like ongoing effect or ongoing while active effects that I want to totally utilize all the time in Sacribit in particular. But because like if you notice, my favorites are not while active effects except for Eye Collector. You could also do it, but I'm just gonna say as a card, I think it's super cool and has a lot of potential. I think people can break this if they try. I just haven't seen it yet. Phantom of the Opera. Very powerful card. It's a 2/4 that when you play it, you draw a card from the opponent's deck. And you can keep this card in your hand the whole time, and they'll never get it back. So not game breaking, but insanely strong. Getting a card for free and into your hands. You can sacrifice it for energy. It goes back to your opponent, all that sort of stuff. But very strong card. Love the pose. Someone hinted at this, but they were saying that he's doing kind of the Marge Simpson meme pose. So there might be a special color palette coming for him that kind of alludes to that a bit more. So thank you for that. But yeah, I think he is quite cool. He's kind of based on Cable a little bit, but I would say he's just enjoyable for me. Probably above Friendly Ghost, I think. Pigsaw. Pigsaw is amazing. He is such a funny card. I love this card. And we already have his sound effects already figured out what we want him to do when he comes into play. He is a pigsaw a pig serial killer. So he's like an anthropomorphic man who got turned into a pig, and he has a buzzsaw permanently attached to his hand. And it is his hand, and that's how he kills people. So that's why his ability, he's a 3/4, and you control your opponent's unifies essentially while he's in play. So he kind of is a master manipulator in that kind of sense. I love this card to death. He is so fun and very powerful, I think, and I just love this like Pigsaw. Just such a cool, like how simple, like, you know, simpler the better, you know? Love it. Pile of Sand. So Pile of Sand goes to Sandman. So Sandman's kind of a fan favorite. We're kind of changing his not color palette, but like his shading a little bit to be a bit better, because I made him really early on, and I've gotten a lot better at doing cloth since then. So he's going to get a slight update, basically keeping the same pose. Really love it. And his pile of sand is going to kind of stay the same. But he is a 2/4 as well. And when you play him, he puts a pile of sand, which is a 0/0 junk card, into the opponent's deck. Very strong card. Filling up your opponent's deck with junk cards is a very powerful early game strategy. And clogging your opponent's draw, clogging their deck, and having 4 power to swing with is not bad at all. Very solid pick. I love this card design. I also just started recently watching the Sandman TV show on Netflix. Loving it so far. I'm on episode 3 or 4. Gonna keep going till I finish it. And I should probably read the graphic novel as well. So I think super cool. I think probably above Hecate, I think. Yeah, love it. And his pile of sand, a little better. Love it. Okay, so Pishaka. No one has really used Pishaka in Sacribit outside of Draft. And the reason for this, I think, is because it's a hard card to utilize, but I think it's one of those cards that will break over time. Pishaka, so when played, randomly copy the effect of the lowest energy card in your void, and it's a 3/1. So you can really copy something and bust out whatever you want to duplicate. So sky's the limit, essentially. And I really like the pose. It's a shadowy demon with a creepy face. Very versatile card. I think currently for me it's enjoyable, but I think it's better than Osiris in terms of like being more fun to use, because there's a bit of randomness in there if you're not paying attention. Possession. This card is basically a screw you card. This card is based on Change of Heart from Yugioh, but in a spirit form. So it's a 3/2. When you play it, basically you take a spirit from the opponent and give possession to them. So you're basically possessing a card. So very fitting. Love the pose. Love the coloring. It's a great card. It's so hateful, and this has stolen people's games very quickly because of how you choose whatever you want to take and you just take it. You do give it back once it's destroyed, but still very strong and very, very powerful. I think one of my absolute faves for sure. Probably better than Killer Doll and Pencz and Onryo. Maybe even better than these guys. I think putting Possession up here. Qualupalik. So Qualupalik is a indigenous spirit or the Inuit, I believe. She is a quite unique spirit currently. So when played, your 1 energy spirits are free to play until end of turn. And she is a 4/3. So if you have a bunch of low energy cards in your hand, it's expensive to kind of play them all out. But if you just have her, play her first, and you can potentially win games very quickly if you have the right cards in your hand to kind of snowball this effect. Love the pose. Super dynamic. She's underwater, or she's an aquatic character. Yeah, absolutely love this card. The effect, not the most interesting to me, but the art wise, I think I really like it. I'm gonna probably put it above Dark Clown and Anansi. I think that I'm gonna really put it in the middle, essentially. Yeah. Sun Wukong. So Sun Wukong's staff, Ryu Jingubang is this card here, and then this is Sun Wukong here, so the Monkey King. I love this card because I base it kind of off of Dakin in Marvel Snap, Wolverine's son, and basically giving a card. So he's a 3/4, and you shuffle a Sun Wukong or a Baku Ryu Jingubang into your deck, and when you play Baku Ryu Jingubang, you double Sun Wukong's power. So every time you play a copy of this, you double the power. So it becomes a 4, starts at 4, becomes an 8, 8 becomes 16. So you can see you're going to snowball this quite a lot if you get the job done. I really love this card. I think a lot of people underutilize it currently. I think you need to build around this to really make it sing. But I love this type of effect, and I love this card. I think probably more than Pencz. Really cool card. I can't wait to play with it properly. Definitely something to enjoy. Shadow Ninja. So Shadow Ninja is a 1/3, and he has a unique ability. So he basically has Death Touch. When you attack with him, he destroys any spirit that defends it. So even if it's weaker, doesn't matter, he's going to destroy it. I think this is kind of underutilized at the moment, but I think he can be very powerful under the right circumstances. I think he's very useful if you unify with something that is also weaker, just to kind of take out stuff that is way too overstated. So this is a good way, like even if you don't have the power, or let's say you do have the power, but you want to attack directly, this allows you to kind of get through their wall first and then kind of overcome. And if you pair this up with a Unify card that you want to destroy, it's very, very strong. So yeah, really cool. And I love the pose, the big kick here, and he's basically a Shadow Ninja. So simple as that. I'm going to put it right below. I love this card. Super cool. Shinigami. So Shinigami is a cool, it went through some interesting changes here. This card has the ability, so when he's played, if you have 5 life, exactly 5 life, and and more cards in the void than an opponent, you switch life totals with them. So this is based on this card in one of my favorite games called Dice Masters, called the Cosmic Cube. You basically switch life totals when you play with that card. Obviously this is very conditional, very hard to set up, but it's very possible to do so. So you can put yourself in a very, very good position if you've hurt yourself, you know, with like Dark Clown and Unamon, stuff like that, to kind of balance your life so it's a certain amount. And very easy to get the setup. So very cool card, very creepy card as well. He's got like that kind of creepy head tilt, and I would definitely give this card a enjoyable, kind of, I think more above Friendly Ghost at the moment. Maybe I think above the Alacrane Spirit here. Yeah. Shinobi. Shinobi is a card, so he's a 1/4, and when you play him, he takes a random card from the opponent's deck and plays it, or puts it into play. And if Shinobi has more power than that card, then Shinobi destroys it. Very similar to Gladiator, if you guys have played Marvel Snap and seen that card. Shinobi is just a great ninja. He's going to get a pretty big update on his sprite. So some of the shading was not the cleanest, and the pixel art line work is not the best. But yeah, I love playing this card gameplay-wise. Very cool ability, very unique, and it just feels really good to play and get it right. Ways you can kind of improve this is if you use like Capray to play it out, so you get a 1/6. So a lot harder to get above 1/6 just from the deck itself. And it doesn't trigger when played abilities, so it's very good for kind of removing those abilities as well. And it also buffs Hades as well. So very cool card that's really versatile. Can be played in kind of any deck you want. And it's just a good stuff kind of thing. Could backfire, but again, if you prepare for it by buffing it beforehand, then you're kind of in a good spot. Love the card. I would put it right below, probably above Shadow Ninja, honestly. I just love the design and the mechanics of this card. Siren. So Siren is quite a controversial card, I would say. In terms of the ability, people love or hate these types of effects, but I think they are necessary in card games. So Siren is a 2/5, and while active, all opponents' effects must target this. So if there's something that targets a specific spirit, then Siren gets targeted instead. If there's something that targets all opponents' spirits, then it targets it first. Yeah, it's kind of a tech card, kind of not, because it could help you, could hurt you, but it's very cool, and I love the design. The sprite has a massive update to the rendering and shading, just to kind of make it more in line with the other wings that you kind of see in the game. So excited to show that to you guys. If you're not part of the Discord, join the Discord. Just type in Sacribit ! In the chat, and you'll get a link to the Discord there. And you can see the sprites that we revealed so far for the changes. But I'm kind of indifferent, honestly, to her, for my own personal taste. Probably less so than these guys, but yeah, somewhere around there. Galahad, Sir Galahad. So he is almost essentially a Pot of Greed, like a mini Pot of Greed. So when you play him, you draw 1 card. and he's part of the Sir archetype, where if you have all 6 Sirs plus Merlin, you create King Arthur. Very solid card. This is probably the most popular from all the Sirs because his draw power is just very desirable in a game early, because he essentially pays for himself. Even if you draw another 1-cost card, you paid for him already. If you get something higher, then that's even better, and you can play more spirits that way. Early game, this is a very good card to kind of get above the curve. And funny enough, this used to be draw 2 cards, and before I got it playtesting, I was like, I can't, in good faith, put draw 2 cards on any card. So I've learned already from Yu-Gi-Oh's terrible design choice there. But yeah, very cool card. Love the design. I am changing him to, he fits more in line with his Knight brothers, like the skin tone. But yeah, very cool card overall. I would say enjoyable for me, because he doesn't do anything crazy, but he's part of the Sir archetype, which I love. So I think him specifically on his own, enjoyable. Sir Gawain. So the famous Green Knight. I love this pose. Really happy with this. And I also love the ability that he reveals the hand of the opposing player. Very basic in terms of the effect, but he is a 1/4. So he's got a bit more stats than the other ones do. I think I like him more than Sir Galahad, but I think I like him just above Batibat, I think. Yeah, I think mechanically not crazy, but he is super cool to me in terms of the sprite work and the pose. Sir Kay. So Sir Kay is like a very defensive card. So when he attacks, he gets -1 power. And when he defends, he gets +3 power. So he's effectively a 1/6 when he defends, which is quite strong, especially for a 1-cost card. Also like the pose, he's very cocky, ready to swing whenever, but he's, very casual about it. Again, very effective card being defensive, and also works with the Sirs. I think he's cooler than Gawain. I think I put him up here above Dave. Yeah, something like that. Sir Lancelot. Quite the brave, proud warrior, and that's why you can see his pose here with the cape and the beautiful hair. Got beautiful long locks. I would say quite strong. So he is a 1/3. Yeah, he's a 1/2, and if you control another spirit, he gets +3 power. So 1/5 effectively if you control something else. Love the pose. Love everything about him. Very strong silhouette as well. I'm going to put him above Black Mass, just like right there. Percival. Sir Percival. So when you play him, he actually hurts yourself. So you lose 3 life? Yeah, 3 life. 2 life. But he's a 1/5. So he's a super statted 1-cost card. He can... Funny enough, he's won someone a game by the opponent playing him on purpose to purposely lose the game. That was a very funny 4-way match that we had. Yeah, love this card design. I think it's very unique. Similar to Dark Clown, but I think not as vibrant and interesting in the sprite itself. But, he's a knight. He's very proud and powerful. I would put him as enjoyable, probably below Friendly Ghost, I think. Tristan. So Tristan is very, very cool. He has really unique ability, and he kind of combos with Merlin. So anytime another spirit permanently gains power, he gets +1 power. So whenever Merlin gets power, he gets +1 power. Whenever another card gets permanent power, like from Capre, Vampire, that sort of thing, he's going to get +1 power because he's kind of jealous, right? And he's basically sniping the power for himself. Really cool card. I think definitely more interesting than Galahad. I would put him under enjoyable because not the type of card I would want to use personally, but I think he's quite fun in his own right. Spiritus. Spiritus is quite a boring card to some people because he's essentially dead fodder. So if you guys don't know, let me find him here. So Spiritus, when he's discarded, you put a random spirit from your deck into play, and you draw 1 card, and it's a 3/2. So essentially, you only want to discard this card. You don't really ever want to be in a position where you have to play him out. This effect may get changed because this is quite powerful. Drawing a card and putting a spirit out randomly from your deck is insanely good. Like the classic play is playing Headless Horseman with this card, so I may change this in the future, but we'll kind of have to see how this works out. But again, very fun card otherwise, and can create some unique situations here. I'm a bit lukewarm on this kind of card, so I would say I'm pretty indifferent. Probably even less so than Artigu. This is probably my most indifferent card, I would say. Sprite. So Sprite is a very cool card. It's a 2/3. When you play Sprite, you play spirits from both yours deck and an opponent's deck. So it plays their ability. So if they have a one-played effect, they will trigger, and this can create some really funny interactions. I think it's also very cute artwork. In his entrance, he kind of drops out as a seed and then comes out of the ground like a little earthling. Love this card. This is such a fun little design, and it creates like kind of a Casino Royale type of effect that I think other card games have, like Jubilee and Marvel Snap. And it's just potential for a lot of fun and chaos, which I think is always enjoyable. So I think I'm gonna put this in super cool, probably for the effect alone. I'll put this above Headless Horseman, I think, something like that. And thanks to everyone who joined just now. Just ranking all the spirits and cards from Sacribit, which is the card game I'm designing and working on. And yeah, we have a client on Tabletop Simulator right now, but it's through invite only. So if you guys want to play test, reach out to me via sacribit@gmail.com or type Sacribit in the chat like this, and you can get access to the Discord, our YouTube channel, Blue Sky, Twitter. You can ask me to schedule a playtest, and I'd be happy to show you the game. All right, Boogeyman. So Boogeyman is the next card here. So he is a 2/3, if I recall correctly. Yeah, he's a 2/3. So when you play him, he deals 3 damage to an opponent's life. So he's effectively a burn card in the burn kind of archetype in this game. So good friends with Koenig, this kind of art here. And yeah, I love the sprite art. I really like the pose. He comes out of the closet actually in his entrance animation. So really happy how that turned out as well. And he's honestly one of my classic favorite Sacribit cards. I honestly would put him above Pencz, I think. I think maybe... Because you know what? I'm ranking based on the current sprite art, so I can't put them below Shadow Ninja. Yeah, he's gonna go up here. Boogeyman all the way. Okay, Red Death. So I love this archetype. I think I've created something super fun and engaging, also versatile and strong in many different ways. So the Red Death, if you guys don't know, he creates these Abbey rooms, which are these rooms here, and it's kind of like Destiny board in Yu-Gi-Oh, where you create the letters of the spell Final, and when you spell all of them, you win the game. So what these are cards that are 0/0, so they kind of create junk cards in the opponent's deck, and once you create all the rooms, the final room that's created is the black room, and once you create the black room, you win the game, effectively. But you need to keep Red Death out in play, and at the end of each of your turns, while Red Death is in play, you generate and create a Abbey room, a random Abbey room that's not the black one. Love the sprite work. It's actually, if you guys don't know, it's the Red Death from Edgar Allan Poe, and the cool thing about it is that there's a lot of ways that people have interpreted the character. I've had to do a lot of research to make sure I'm interpreting it the right way, but it's never actually cloaked in red. If you guys don't know, the description in the poem is that he is in a tight corpse suit. If you guys don't know what that is, it's basically what they wrap the corpses in. It's like a tight bandaging kind of thing, almost like a mummy, and that's what he's wrapped in, and it's soaked in blood. So that's why it's black and covered in blood, and not just a red cloak, like how a lot of people in pop culture assume it's red. I think they was not done, it possibly not done in blood, because back in the day, like, censorship was really, like, high. But yeah, I don't know why most other people haven't interpreted it in that way, but I really love this design. Easily one of my fave cards in the game, and mechanics and sprite work, like, all of it just came together beautifully. So love this card. Sort of like an Exodia type effect, the only way to kind of win the game outside of playing the game normally. So really cool. The Weird Sisters. So if you guys don't know, the Weird Sisters are from the story of Macbeth. And they were fully in the public domain. And they're a very unique card. They're the only card that has a game start ability. So when the game starts, you add a cauldron into your deck, and while the cauldron is active, the Weird Sisters cost 0 energy to play, and they're a 3/3. So they kind of start out low, and there's 3 of them, right? So there's kind of a chubby one, a regular average one, and then a really skinny, lanky one. I kind of based them off of the Fates in the Disney Hercules movie, because there's no real specific description to what they look like, so I think this is kind of more up to my interpretation. And to fit the game of Sacribit. I love these characters so much. I would definitely put them in my absolute faves. I think above here. I really think above here. Above Leak. Maybe even above Gremlin of Fremlin. Yeah, I really think so. That's huge. Okay, Tianlong. It's called Dragon Spirit currently, but the name is going to be changed. So he's essentially the king of dragons. And while active, your spirits cannot lose power, and enemy spirits cannot gain power, and it's a 5/5. So a very dominating card that kind of prevents buffing and also nerfing to your own cards. So it's like a tech card mixed with like a solid body in the game, and he's a giant dragon, so very, very cool to use in the game. I do like the sprite a lot. I haven't played with the effect too much, but I would say he's super cool. I think probably above this like halfway point here. I think somewhere around here. Tika Bling. So Tika Bling is a Filipino spirit. He is a 3/1, 3/2, I believe. Yeah, 3/3. Sorry, 3/3. So when he's kind of like Odin. So when played, activate the when played abilities of your other active spirits. So this can trigger other when played abilities and kind of get just a double effect on top of it. Very solid card, and something you definitely want to repeat as much as you can. I think very enjoyable and fun as a card effect. And I do like the sprite as well. Probably more than Oni, but kind of more lower for my personal playstyle and kind of interest. Unicorn. So Unicorn is kind of is another tech card. Unicorn is a 4/5, if I recall. Yeah, 4/5, and when played, he removes all while active abilities from active spirits. So similar to Enchantress from Marvel Snap, kind of purifying the board, so to speak. But I really like the pose. I like the sprite art, and it looks very chargy. You know, it has that sharp unicorn horn. And the effect is like kind of cool, kind of enjoyable for me. I would probably put this higher than Gawain, I would say, somewhere on the bottom of super cool. Vampire. So Vampire is a 2-power spirit, or a 2-cost spirit. Effectively, where's Vampire? So he's a 2/2. When he's played, he just randomly destroys one of your other active spirits, and he gains +4 power. So very similar to Carnage in Marvel Snap. And also love the Vampire. This big pose that he's kind of just showing his cape off, right? Very strong card. And if you combine him with something like Zombie or Mummy, then he can get another +2, so he can get +6 power, and he can be +8, or 8 power in total. So super, super strong, and he can kind of get rid of stuff that you don't want anymore, or stuff like Cadaver, Onryo, that kind of can regenerate themselves and come back into the game. So just a very powerful card in general. And when you combine him with AJ, you basically will have 7 + 6 in total to swing with, which is huge. I love the card, love the pose. Easily one of my favorites. I don't think in the top 10, maybe. I think definitely above these guys. Definitely above Onryo. I think I would say, I think above Layak. I think this is where I want him to be. Yeah, Vampire. I like Vampire a lot. Witch. Witch is very cool. So Witch is kind of unique in the sense that no other card really does what Witch does. So if you guys don't know, Witch is a card that is a 2/3. So 2 cost to play, 3 power. And when she's played, spirits cannot be destroyed until the start of your next turn. And this is really useful because Witch is essentially like a Swords of Revealing Light from Yu-Gi-Oh, but in a card. That's a body. This also prevents Unify from resolving and prevents destruction of any kind from happening. So it's really, really unique and cool in that sense. And it's a way to kind of slow the game down a little bit. So if you're running a defensive deck or cards you want to protect, this is a very good card to use in those type of decks. I love the pose. It's very maniacal and very evil looking. And I love the design of her general outfit that I created for her. So I don't personally use her in my decks, but I do think she's cool. How cool is the tough part? I think she's cooler than... I think mechanically she's quite interesting. I feel as though she's up here between Minotaur and Death. I think around there. Okay, Witch Doctor. So Witch Doctor is quite cool. He's a 2/4, and when you play him, he discards the top card of your deck, and then you gain life equal to its cost. So one of the only other cards that allow you to gain life in this game, which is quite rare and quite handy. And it's such a great sprite. I based it off of a Nigerian Witch Doctor costume or outfit that they wear. And this is the same kind of mask that I've seen as well. So he's very tiny. You can see in comparison to like someone like Zeus or Zahak, he's very small. But he's quite powerful and quite versatile. And you can also use him in discard decks as well to like kind of get stuff discarded for benefits. I really like this sprite a lot. I think probably in the super cool department. And he's also quite unique in terms of the proportions and the silhouette. So I would probably put him above Holy Ghost, somewhere there. Zahak. So Zahak is a Iranian Persian spirit, and he's essentially a king conqueror type character. And he made a deal with a demon or a devil of some sorts, and his curse is that he has 2 snakes on his shoulders that he has to feed, and they only eat young male brains. So pretty disturbing story. But he essentially, his effect is that he is a 5/3. Oh, sorry, he's a 5/5. And while active, at the end of your turn, you discard 2 cards from the top of your deck. So essentially you're feeding these snakes every turn you keep them active. And he's great for discarding because you can trigger stuff not just from your hand, but from your deck. Not only that, he's great for cycling through your deck faster. So if you need to get to your void quicker, this is a great enabler of that mechanic. I also love the pose. I like the colors as well. He's a lot more colorful than I made him out to be intentionally. But after doing research on Persian kings and stuff like that and rulers, they kind of have really bright colors in some instances. So that's what I was trying to reflect on here. Yeah, really love the pose. I think this is kind of more not really my archetype that I'm really interested in, but I think he's still enjoyable. I think he's gonna be somewhere in the middle here, a bit above the middle. Almost done, you guys. Okay, so Zeus. So Zeus is a really popular card. He is while active, all opponents must always show their hand, and you draw +1 card every turn. And he's a 5/4, so he's quite a big body, and that effect is insanely good. So you not only get information from your opponent at all times while he's active, and you also draw an extra card per turn. So insanely good right off the bat. And I love the sprite work. He's in a cloud. He's got that lightning bolt in his hand. Again, I love drawing buff muscular characters. It's kind of my bread and butter. and I just love what I've done with the art, and the card effect is very fitting of the card. So I don't think absolute fave, but generally up here. So I think I'm gonna say, like, personally, I would not use this card. I'm not really, this is not my kind of vibe. I would probably say above Anansi and Dark Clown, I think, somewhere around here. Alright, last one, Zombie. So Zombie is basically a 1/3, or sorry, a 1/4, and when you play him, he creates a zombie limb, which is his missing arm, as you can see. And the zombie limb is a 1/2, and when the zombie limb is destroyed, it removes it from the game. So it's a token that actually doesn't stay around, which is more often a buff than a nerf. Because generally if you clog your deck with weak cards, then essentially you're going to be making it harder for you to draw stuff you want. So that's why this card is done in that way. But essentially you're creating 6 power in total for 1 energy, which is quite huge. But this was one of the first spirits I ever drew for Sacribit, and I think I did a really great job of encapsulating the personality, the zombie-like quality of him. Yeah, so I like him a lot. I think he's super cool. I think probably above Headless Horseman, and I put him probably up here. Alright, so it looks like we've done the tier list. So let me see if there's any. So is Baki Kujira my favorite sprite? Is it my favorite card? You know, it might be. It might be. Like, if I were to build a deck, it would easily be, like, from these cards here across the top 2 rows. I can't really say I would prefer one over the other. It's so hard, you guys. It's so hard. When you make your own card game and you have to pick your favorites, it's like picking your children. They're all my children, you know? But yeah, I think this is the list. I'll share this on Twitter, you guys, but I'll post the YouTube video as well. Again, thank you so much for tuning in, and YouTube, I will see you guys next time. Thanks again. But alright, you guys, to finish off the stream, I just wanted to reveal something real quick. So we had one of the, as I was mentioning earlier, I finished Oni's entrance animation, and I just wanted to show some of you guys that, anyone who gets a quick chance to catch this. So Oni is a very cool card. Big beast, essentially like a Shang-Chi. Let me open up a sprite. Here we go. So this is Oni's animation. Comes sliding in, bangs his club. Wham. Really cool. So essentially, if you guys don't know, entrances are what we're calling the animation that plays when you play a card from your hand into play. And they become essentially the spirit that you're seeing at the last frame. So kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh, when you play a card and they kind of become that monster as a sprite, that's kind of what's happening in our Sacribit game. Just to really make you feel like these cards are not just cards, but they're characters that have their own personality, their own attitude, their own abilities, and, you know, their unique origins from whatever culture they're from. So no, thank you so much, you guys. Really appreciate you tuning in to watch the stream.